Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the diorama I built recently. It's a Hoth Echo Base corridor diorama. There's quite a few pieces here and there's a lot going on. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to sort of split it up into kind of like what you would need to recreate this project in this diorama build, and you know, the process of putting it together and what you need to think about or what it would be good for you to consider, and then sort of some of the thoughts that were going through my mind in terms of design and, like, you know, versatility. Where can you use it, what can you do with it? So we're going to jump into it now. I will list on screen everything that you need for this build, and then obviously we'll do some shots of, you know, some figures in this diorama and sort of show you you know, what it would look like if you built this for your own display or for your toy photography. So do subscribe to the channel if you're new so you don't miss any content. Leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and let's jump into it. Okay guys, so let's get started. So what we have here is the main corridor piece, the removable roof, the back corridor piece, and two side panels that can be used to make these edges look a lot more realistic, cleaner. Now with these pieces, if you were doing this for your display, so if you're making this diorama piece for your display, like your bookshelf or something like that, you would want to make these pieces you know, more shapely so that they don't protrude as much, and probably you'd want to glue them on just so that these trim pieces looked more realistic. Obviously with this, the idea is that these things are removable. You know, I've got the handle on here so you can take the roof off. I've got the window sections in the top so that you can put lights looking down into the corridor. And then you've got removable sections like the back piece as well. So the idea here is you don't want to hem yourself in too much and glue everything together, because then it's going to be difficult to kind of get your hands in and around to try and create a scene or adjust a scene for your display or for your toy photography shots. So what we're going to do is I'm going to split this into multiple parts. I'm going to talk through the process of what's going on with each part, and we'll do a step by step. So I'm going to take these lights off of the top for now, and as I've said before in my diorama build videos, these are all just ideas, so by all means, you know, take this as some, you know, food for thought. Be creative, and either, you know, you can use this guideline to follow, you know, as an Echo Base kind of guideline for the build, or you can kind of take some pieces, you know, leave others, and do what you want. So first of all, we've got the removable roof. Now, as I mentioned, the reason it's very important and I would suggest that you would do a removable roof is because you want to be able to get in here and change the display, or change the figures and the accessories for your photography shots. Now, what we've got here is a nice simple piece. Basically, you've just got a sheet of polystyrene. Now this whole build is made of primarily polystyrene. You can use EVA foam, and I know a lot of diorama builders would use EVA foam in general, but especially for this build, as I've mentioned on the channel before, it's harder to get your hands on EVA foam in the UK, especially the kind of EVA foam you see in a lot of builds on Instagram and YouTube, you know, that kind of the pink or the green foam. Here it's a lot harder to get your hands on that insulation foam, and it's expensive, to be honest. So this polystyrene works just as well, and to be honest, it was free, it's cheap, it's easy. You can use it, you know, very easily as a material. You know, it's easy to cut, easy to sand, that sort of thing. So perfect material to use. Now, like if you get, like I did, a desk delivered, you know, I got a new desk when I moved in, you know, if you have like a washing machine delivered, or you know someone that does, this is the kind of place you'd get this polystyrene board, and it's just flat, you know, packing polystyrene. As I said, try and recycle things and, you know, make them into awesome dioramas like this. It's always a good thing. So what we've got here is just a polystyrene sheet. You can kind of see up close. Basically what I did was I found these recycled plastic food lids, and I measured them, one circle here and one circle here in line, so it's adjacent, so you can kind of see that it would go on top to put a light at the front and the back. So the idea was I traced this shape out, I then cut that out of the polystyrene. Now I would recommend cutting it to the shape of the plastic you have first, rather than cutting a shape and trying to find plastic to fit it. It always works better the other way. So yeah, I just cut these shapes out. As you can see there, same process, and then just a little bit of hot glue in there will stick those on. Now these are really good because obviously when you're doing toy photography or even just for your display, it's really important to get some good lighting. So like if you can see on top here, you know, if I put this light on top and take it away, you can see the difference. And then obviously, you know, when you've got a figure in here, as I'll kind of show you now, you know, you've got a light in here. Much brighter this one. So ooh, throwing things everywhere. So you've got Luke here, and obviously he looks a lot better when he's lit like that. The diorama looks awesome, don't get me wrong, you know, but that is just fantastic. It's next level. And it's just a simple way to upgrade the build. Now you can do it without this piece if you so wish, but I would recommend it. It's nice and easy, and it does allow you to get lighting through the top, because obviously you know, when you're considering lighting in photography, you need lighting either from the sides to create hard and soft light, you know, backlighting a figure. You might be able to get some from behind the corridor, at the end of the corridor, but this, you know, this above lighting does make it really easy to light your display, make it look much better, or you know, your photography shots get a much nicer lighting going on. Obviously as well, because it's, you know, predominantly white, and these kind of like ice cold light blue shades, the light is gonna reflect and bounce off those pieces as well, so you know, it's going to be a well lit diorama. So as I mentioned, glue those in, and then what I did here was just glue 2 pieces of foam board, piece of foam and the piece of wire to make a handle, so that I could pick the piece up nice and easy when I've got hands full, and that I don't have to pull it up by any side, just because, you know, if I pick it up by one corner and snap it, then kind of that's it's not what you want. So nice and easy little carry handle, you know, to take that off the top like that, and as I say, you can leave that step out if you prefer, but it's nice and easy. On the inside I just put another flat layer of foam over that piece to reinforce the underside of the middle there, and as you can see, kind of it's in line, so it goes down the corridor, so it is nice and symmetrical. It does look really natural, it's nice. What you can see here is we've got the detailing, and basically all that is the polystyrene is flat, and then you come in with either a foam or polystyrene, you know, like a foam cutting tool, which basically is a hot metal wire that allows you to cut shapes, and you just glide through. Now with this you won't cut all the way through, as you can kind of see on the back, it's flat still. You just come and score it with the grooves, connecting these pieces, kind of like you're creating grain, you know, like if you were creating grain that's seen in wood. This is the same kind of thing. It's the grain of the ice, as these corridors have been carved by, you know, imagine big machines, and this is kind of the grain of the ice planet that you're seeing here. And this detail is really, it brings it to the next level and adds so much dimension, detail, texture, you know, all of that. And then obviously what I've done here is I've just gone, I've got a little bit of white acrylic paint and come in with a tiny bit of ice cold blue, and then I've just used a sponge and dabbed that on there just to make it a little bit of a difference in white, so that you get that coldness from the blue and the white, but you aren't just getting just flat white with no you know, no detail. It's kind of like reverse weathering. Basically what you're doing is you're carving these, you know, these shapes so that the grain goes and meets at different points, and then you're dabbing on the top of that with a sponge loaded with paint, and that will paint the top layer, but it won't get in all the nooks and crannies, which are the pieces of kind of, you know, snow and ice that the machine has kind of carved into the wall. So this is the piece here. We'll remove that for now, and we'll move on to the Echo Base corridor. Now obviously this is a famous this is a famous scene from Empire. the scene with Han and Leia, and obviously when the base is falling apart, all of these kind of corridors. Now I've done this to the 6-inch scale as I normally do. You can kind of see with this Rebel Trooper, you know, you've got some good clearance on here. Now in the movie obviously it's a lot closer quarters, a lot tighter, but I wanted to make something a bit wider so that this could be a very versatile diorama, and I could get a lot of figures in there as part of a battle scene, or you know, some rubble and all that sort of stuff. You could really go you know, the extra mile and really elevate this scene by just making it a little bit bigger, you know, a little bit wider, a little bit taller. You can get more going on. By all means, like I mentioned, keep it narrow and quaint like that. That's, you know, that's screen accurate, so you wouldn't lose or gain any points there, but it's completely up to you. I would suggest making it a little bit wider because you do get a little bit more room to work with. So basically all we've got here is polystyrene sheets on the bottom, polystyrene walls, and basically what I've done with the walls is you can see they're angled, and basically all you do is you get the polystyrene board that's flat on the bottom, and if you imagine that it's flat on the bottom and you just sand away so that it becomes an angle, then you glue them, hot glue, onto the base, and you can see that you get this kind of angle here. Nice and easy. And then you can see here that I just used some foam board, hot glued that on at each end just to reinforce it, just because obviously polystyrene, but it does wiggle, but it is stronger now. So nice and easy, just base plate there, and the walls just hot glued at the bottom, as you can see. And then obviously, as I mentioned with the ceiling piece, it's the same technique, just coming in with the foam cutting wire, or you can use, if you don't have one of those, they are quite cheap to pick up, and I do suggest picking them up if you're a diorama you know, builder, excuse me. But obviously you don't need to do that. If you use a knife, that will work too, or an X-Acto knife. This is just so much easier. It glides through, and it really does create a lot of different shapes, depths, you know, and angles, and it just does look really good. So I would recommend doing that. If you don't have access to one, or you don't want to pick one up, if you've got a soldering iron, basically that's a hot piece of metal too, and as long as you don't hold it on too long and you do this in a well vented area, you can do the same technique. Basically you're just going to score and wiggle, you know, don't make it completely symmetrical. You want it to look natural, like it was carved into the ice. And then you're going to come in with some white and some light blue on a sponge. You can use a brush as well, but I found the sponge leaves a good texture, and you're going to pad that on there. I would suggest painting the pieces before you glue them. It makes it a lot easier. And then sort of on top of that, I would say the reason the sponge is good, and the reason you want to come in with, you know, 2 layers of paint, is you want to put, you know, you've got the polystyrene is a white base, which is great, and that's why I would recommend using polystyrene again. But you want to come in with the blue, load that up, put that all over, you know, randomly, then put a little bit of just white on the sponge, and just come in and kind of add some detail. And as you can kind of see, you get these different colours, you know, certain textures, some areas whiter, you know, than others, some areas kind of that ice cold blue, and you know, they're bluer than others, and it makes a really nice texture, and adds some perfect detail to kind of really give it that next level of you know, dimension. These pieces are just some accessories. Now I would recommend it because it does again bring it together. It's a brilliant way to elevate the build. Basically all this is just a piece of foam board. You can use EVA foam or plastic or anything you've got, and then this is just a floor grate that was printed out. I'll put the template in the description below. It's the same kind of templates I've used before. They're really helpful. It's a really helpful resource. I would recommend checking that out. Basically just print them out black and white, glue them onto these pieces, and these become these kind of floor panels that reinforce, you know, the pathway that you see in the movie. Obviously, you know, we've seen Echo Base in Empire, but there are other snow planets and things like Rebels, and you know, the Clone Wars. So you could use this as equally, you know, an Echo Base corridor, or just an ice planet diorama. It's completely up to you. Moving on to some more detail. As you can kind of see here, we've got some cables on the walls, and if you remember from Empire, there's in the corridors there's these kind of power cables running along the walls, kind of drooping like that. And all this is basically got some just cables. You can get just any old cables from a hardware store or lying around cables. These are the kind of cables that you use for like hanging curtains like net curtains, or you can use it, the kind of material that you use for hanging out your washing. And basically all you're doing is you're just hot gluing them into position, and you're drooping them and cable tying them just to make them look a bit cleaner. As you can kind of see, it kind of looks like they're bunched power cables, on their clasps on the wall, and they're cable tied. Gives them a little bit more detail. And as I said, you just come in and hot glue them into place. And these fixings, these really do bring the piece together as well. These fixings are just the kind of cable holders that you can get at any hardware store. Again, they're the sort of thing you put on the side of your brick house to run cable around the house in a smart, tidy way. They're very cheap, very easy to come by, but they come in all sorts of colours, shapes, sizes. But yeah, just a couple of those glued in there as if the cables are running through those things and being held, and it just looks spectacular. Just gives it that that extra realism, and that screen accuracy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this away, and we're going to move on to some of the last pieces, and then we'll bring it back together and we'll talk about some of the final thoughts, and I'll show off some of the kind of scene ideas you might want to recreate. So basically what we've got here is the kind of T-junction of the corridor. So if you imagine you go down a corridor, you can go left, as you can see, or right. And this is just an easy way to do that. And basically all it is just a flat wall, a little bit of a connector for strength as well, to kind of make this corridor section, enough for your figures to fit through. If you can kind of imagine, you've got, you've got your snow trooper to scale there. If he's in this corridor, you can see down there, or if he's at the end of the corridor, and you're trying to do a shot. Excuse me, as I throw it around. You're trying to do a shot of him coming around the corner or something like that. Like the classic scene of the snow troopers with Vader. You can recreate that. Again, one of these pieces. What I would do is just print out, maybe 7 or 8 of those, and put those on foam board, and then you've got them for other builds as well. But basically all it is, polystyrene board, the same wall technique with the carving, and the paint again coming in with the blue and then with the white and the blue again if you like, and you do get this, as you can see, you get this nice texture of different shades of the blues and the whites. And then as you can see here, this is one of the things that I kind of added to this piece that really kind of elevated it again. Basically what you've got here is like a PVC pipe connecting thing, you get from plumbing and stuff like that. And if I take it out here, you've got this light, and basically that's what that is I thought, right, well, this corridor could be quite dark, and obviously like you can go left and you can go right, and that's awesome. You make this T-junction to first of all put a back wall on the corridor, but it's not just boring and lifeless. This allows you to connect passages, and because I thought, right, well, it could be quite dark, what I did was in the connecting structure carved this hole in here, and then I glued the PVC pipe connector into there. And then basically you can do this with any old light, but I did this to the size of this little torch I had lying around, just this LED torch. And basically all you need to do is put that in there, and as you can kind of see the difference it makes with not having it and having it in there. It's kind of like that spotlight, and it just looks so cool. If you can imagine, you've got a figure in here like the snow trooper. If you're doing a scene for a display, that looks awesome because it looks like a realistic installed hallway light. But then at the same time, if you're doing photography where depending on your camera settings and the lighting, it's very important. If you're doing a scene with the snow troopers and Vader, you can really create some some nice ambiance, as they say, in there. And then there's some different things you can do with it. I've got a little piece of metal on here as if it's like a intercom thing. You can kind of add accessories where you see fit. But I would recommend doing that again, because lighting this piece, whether you use it for a display or toy photography, it is very important. Now these last pieces are just accessory pieces, and basically we've got, again, you can see the ruffled edges, because nothing's going to be symmetrical and perfect. It's an ice cave. This is the Echo base on Hoth. It's very kind of like spare of the moment. They're trying to carve these these hallways into the base, so if you can imagine that, kind of the jagged pieces just looks really cool. Kind of looks like it is a cave, and then we've got the same premise with the cables again, tied a few clips to make it look like these power cables are being run throughout the base. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the other pieces up now and show you, because basically what I've got here is I've got this symmetrical left and right versions of the same thing. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're making a display, you can make these smaller and more angular to the shape of the front or one of the sides of the corridor, and you can glue it on there to make it look like you're peering in there, but it's a lot cleaner of the the edges look like the rest of the diorama, rather than kind of like you see all of the exposed glue or anything. So that would be a good way to do that. But what we've got here, if I bring in the main corridor and I put that in there, so as we can see, I've got the main corridor piece, the Tjunction back wall, then I've got the removable roof, obviously with the windows to put the lights on top of. Now if we grab our lights, again, these are just cheap kind of dollar store or Poundland lights. You can go up in the market and get lume cubes, that sort of thing. It's completely up to you. And obviously, as you can see here, like the lighting already is just next level. If I put this back in the back corridor, you can kind of see what I mean. And then what we've got here is basically a way of cleaning these edges up. So if you're doing an image of you, an image of you looking down the corridor around the corner, this kind of pieces to hide away those those wall edges, and that just looks so much better, and it's takes no time at all, really easy build, but just so effective. And if you can imagine the famous Han and Leia scene down that corridor, or rebel troopers, and you want to create some photography shots with them fighting the snow troopers, that sort of thing, you can go ahead and do that, and it looks really realistic and really awesome. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to wrap it up with some final thoughts. So that wraps it up here, guys. This was the Hoth Echo Base corridor diorama. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was informative. Do leave me some comments if you have any questions, or you want to share your diorama builds. I'd love to hear about them. Do subscribe if you're new to the channel for plenty of content to come, just like this, and action figure reviews and other creative projects. If you enjoyed this video, do leave a like, and I'm going to leave you with this, guys, and I'm going to show you some of the ideas you could kind of embark on with your figures too before you go. So I'm going to leave you with this. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.